Thursday, April 13th. Has the agenda been posted? I didn't know that was such a hard question. We had a closed session before this session started. There was no reportable action taken. So the first item we have is to recognize one of our citizens for his service to our town. Julie?
Yes, this idea originally came up because former mayor and council member Chris Martin suggested that we recognize Robert Smithton. Can you not hear me, Cindy? Test. Thank you. Okay. So Chris Martin suggested this idea to recognize citizens who would otherwise go unnoticed for doing extraordinary acts to benefit our town. And when Elizabeth Robbins and I were sitting in front of the post office last spring to spread the word about the renewal of Measure I, the paramedic parcel tax, we saw Robert Smithton virtually every day passing by with a bag and a stick, picking up trash every day. And he does that for no benefit to himself, just for the town. So we wanted to recognize him, and Mayor Kuhl will be reading a proclamation recognizing Mr. Smithton. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Mr. Smithton. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Robert Smithton and his family have lived in Ross since 1994, and whereas Robert Smithton has voluntarily picked up trash in the town of Ross for over a year, and whereas each morning Robert Smithton walks from the Ross post office to the College of Marin parking lot, picking up trash along the way, and whereas each afternoon Robert Smithton walks from his home to Natalie Coffin Green Park, picking up trash along the way, and whereas Robert Smithton picks up more than 10 pounds of trash each week and is amazed at how much paper and other items people leave behind, and whereas after running in over 100 marathons, Robert Smith now walks to get exercise while picking up trash to beautify the town of Ross. And whereas it is most appropriate that we could recognize the significant contributions of Robert Smithton to the town of Ross, now therefore, on behalf of the town council and the town of Ross, I do hereby certify Robert Smithton a Ross citizen extraordinaire, recognize the positive impacts he makes every day, and thank him for his work to keep the town of Ross clean and beautiful. Mr. Smithton, if you'll come up, we'll give you this proclamation for your trophy room. Thank you. Congratulations, and thank you very much. Our next item is the introduction and swearing in of a new police officer. Chief Pata?
It's as good as we can get. Good evening, Mayor and council members. One of my goals when I arrived to town 2 years ago now was to do my best to fully staff this police department. And I'm happy to announce that we are now one officer shy from fulfilling my goal here tonight. So I'm very happy to introduce to you tonight Officer Megan Hayashi. Officer Hayashi is originally from Texas. She obtained a master's degree in forensic psychology. She's worked for the Federal Probation Department. Officer Hayashi also worked for Marin County Police Department before transferring to a Bay Area District Attorney's Office, where she worked as a district attorney investigator. Megan lives in Marin with her twins, Carter and Reese, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, homework. She enjoys hiking and wants to connect with our residents and make a positive contribution to our town. So I'm very happy that she's now a member of our police department. She's been here about a week now.
Welcome, Officer Hayashi. The next item on our agenda is for our town manager to introduce our interim recreation manager.
Thank you, Mayor Cool. Krista Johnson, Town Manager. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce our interim recreation manager, Michael Langford. Just a couple of words I'd like to say about Michael. He was born and raised in Cupertino. He has been in the field of municipal recreation management since he graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo with a degree in recreation administration. Many, many years of experience. He retired recently after 14 years as the director of Parks and Recreation in the city of Sausalito. He is happily married to his wife, Deborah, who is a food scientist, and they have lived in Novato for the past 14 years. He enjoys lots of skiing, water sports, spending time with friends, and we are so lucky to have him while our newly hired recreation manager, Maureen Borthwick, is out on leave. So she'll be back in a few months, but until then, we are so lucky to have Michael, and I wanted to make sure he's already hit the ground running and doing some fantastic things for our department and our community. And Michael, if you'd like to say a few words, you're welcome to.
Well, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. It is a pleasure to work here for the town of Ross. I was retired for about a year, and I got a phone call from Maureen, who actually is a friend of mine through recreation. We all seem to know each other one way or another, and met with Maureen and your town manager, and I thought this would be a fun thing for me to do, and kind of be back in the field for just a temporary bit, and also help a local town and and help a friend out. So it's my pleasure to be here, and I've met some great people already, and I look forward to my short stint here. And I look forward to Maureen coming back as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike, and welcome.
I had the opportunity to meet Michael yesterday when we both attended the meetings of the age-friendly group, and he was hard at work already, providing some good thoughts to that meeting. So we're very happy to have you. The next item on our agenda is open time for public expression. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the council for up to 3 minutes on subjects which are not on the agenda. If it's something that's later on the agenda, hold your comments about that item until we reach that agenda. And you have 3 minutes, and there's a light down here that is green until you have 30 seconds left. At that point, it turns yellow. So start planning to end before the red light comes on, and I have to exhort you to stop. With that, is there anyone who wishes to make public comment today? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the mayor's report. Oh, okay, thank you. There. This month's meeting comes with the town fairly quiet, with many families out of town because of spring break at the schools. I hope we have substantial remote participation because at least one of the subjects on the agenda, the facilities master plan, will have long-term effects on the town. To recap, we're closing out our outdated public safety building in 2025, and we're in the process of planning the new facilities. The consultants who are assisting us in developing plans for a new facility are reporting tonight, and their written report is available online, and I won't read that hopelessly lengthy 2-line address, but you can get it in the morning after tomorrow if you want to read the report. The estimated costs have not unexpectedly risen considerably since we started this process several years ago. And one of the issues will be whether to bear the increased cost of keeping the fire department facade along Sir Francis Drake and the related Spanish architecture. Please feel free to weigh in on this issue. We'll be letting our staff know our thoughts, but not making any final decisions until probably this summer. On the flood protection front, I attended a meeting of the San Anselmo Town Council at which the county water staff reported. What San Anselmo decides to do could affect a number of homes in Ross, and that's why we're interested in it. The county staff, along with the floodplain managers from Ross and San Anselmo, are about to meet with the Federal Emergency Management Agency staff, whose regulations control the amount of mitigation that must be provided to homeowners affected by changes. The county staff has indicated that they plan to start construction of the Ross aspects of their plan, most notably removal of the fish ladder, in summer 2024. The current staff seems determined to get something done, but after all these years, I think we need to wait and see. The third issue, not on this month's agenda, is the housing element. We will have a report on the comments received on our draft housing element next month. A draft environmental impact report is currently out for comment and available on the town website for review. Our planning director, Rebecca Markwick, will be reporting next month, and we will have a special meeting on May 31st to certify our environmental impact report and adopt the housing element. Any input you can provide us on these issues is appreciated. And in the meantime, enjoy the nice weather that seems finally to have reached us. The next item is council committee and liaison reports. Does any member of the council have a liaison report? Okay, we'll move on to staff and community reports, starting with our town manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. I have a couple of updates for you this evening. No surprise, but we're having some issues with our microphones in the council chambers here. So on April 25th, a technician will be here to install hardwired microphones, as these wireless ones have not been performing well. The technician will also move the timer box so that either I or the town clerk can manage it instead of the mayor, because you're busy chairing the meeting. So we'll see how that works, if that works a little better for the council. And lastly, we're looking for a way to display a timer on Zoom so that speakers that are participating on Zoom can have, well, it'll be easier for them to see how much time they have remaining. It's my understanding that we used to, when everyone was on Zoom, including town staff, our public works director kindly showed a clock in his screen, but now that he's physically here, he's not able to do that. So we'll figure out some other way. I believe there are some other agencies in Marin County that has figured this out, and I'm sure, I'm confident that we will figure it out too. So just be a little patient with us, and we'll take care of that. We want to make sure that the council can work efficiently. Okay. 2 weeks from today, April 27th, is the Town Council's annual budget workshop. The workshop is scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. and end about 2 p.m. We are combining the usual 2 meetings into one, so I expect that the workshop is likely to last until 2 p.m., but do not fear. We will have plenty of modest food and coffee for you. The agenda packet for the workshop will be published on Friday, April 21st. The agenda for your regular May 11th council meeting will include an update on the housing element project. Planning and Building Director Rebecca Markwick and the town's housing consultant will go through the state of California's comments on the draft housing element document that was submitted by the town of Ross to the state of California last December. And then a special council meeting has been scheduled for Wednesday, May 31st at 6 p.m. in this room for the purpose of discussing the final draft of the housing element document and its final environmental impact report. Thank you for the opportunity to report, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a report from the Ross Property Owners Association?
Can I just mention the Wi-Fi is not working? I'm wondering if we can get that. Is that possible to get that fixed? Okay.
Hi. Hello, members. Is this working at all?
Microphone is working.
Okay, now. All right, great. I wrote it down so I could make this prompt. This is the report from the Ross Property Owners Association. We had our meeting this past Monday. One, we presented information to the town manager about our budget and that we're hoping to do several projects in conjunction with the town. And these projects have come about to our attention based on input from town residents and also from what board members think about what might be beneficial to the town. Some of those projects that are on our slate is adding another beautiful walnut table in the post office, changing out the fluorescent lighting at the post office and making it something more like LED and maybe not quite as, what's the word I want, obnoxious, whatever, a more pleasant experience. Adding some shade awnings and benches at the tennis court. The hanging flowers will be delivered next Monday. Live on the Common is scheduled, I think it's May 4th. It's coming up, which, thank you, May 12th, which should be a really fun event. And we are working with the Historical Society on a kind of a walkabout town where special landmarks will be posted. So that's in progress. And then just to mention, the Ross Auxiliary had a very successful spring fling. So lots of good things happening, and we appreciate working with the town. And we all look forward to involvement with citizens to come to our events. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. There are 4 items on the consent agenda. Does any member of the council wish to pull any of those items for discussion? Does any member I see none. Does any member of the public wish to pull any member from the consent, any item from the consent agenda for separate discussion? Are there any online? Okay. Seeing none, we'll end the consent agenda. Oh, yes, we better take a vote on whether we're accepting.
So can I make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes.
Second.
Councilmember McMillan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kircher,
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins,
Aye.
Mayor Cool,
Aye.
Councilmember Breckus,
Aye.
Councilmember, no. With a vote of 5, the motion passes.
Okay, that completes the consent agenda, and we're going to move now to the first half of our public hearings on planning projects. The first one is 1 El Camino Bueno. Will you introduce that, please?
Good evening, Mayor, council members.
I'm recused? I didn't get notice. No, I'm not recused. Yeah.
Okay, you need to withdraw. Don't go too far, Bill.
Good evening. The applicant at El Camino Bueno is requesting approval for design review and a variance to allow for the construction of a new 8-foot stamped concrete wall along Sir Francis Drake. The new stamped stone pattern wall will replace the existing wood fence.
Okay, thank you. Is there any member of the council who wishes to request discussion on this item?
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Is the project plans, is it conditioned on them growing a vine on it? The reason I ask is I don't know if you know, but like, I know it's matching kind of the Hunt wall, and there were some people that were concerned that that was, you know, really needed the landscaping in front of it to soften the appearance. And the town did actually care so much about that, that it would be great if that was a enforceable condition, which is what it sounded like from the staff report, but then I didn't see it mentioned in the resolution. I wasn't sure if for sure that was an express condition, because if it wasn't, I probably want to make it one.
Okay.
There's not a condition, but are happy to add it verbally. And I know the project applicant wants the wall to match the Hunt wall, but we'll add the condition if should that come to the vote.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other member of the council who has anything they wish to discuss about this project?
I just have a question. Besides the Hunt's 8-foot wall, are there any other 8-foot walls along Sir Francis Drake?
Yes, there's currently one adjacent to it, and it will match the wall next to it.
That's the Hunts?
That's the wall, right?
Yes.
None that I know of. I don't have a lot of institutional knowledge here yet. I think you guys might be more familiar with the walls along Francis Drake than I am.
I'm just wondering about the precedent of putting up more 8-foot walls. I guess each property is unique. Each situation is unique.
I also learned at the ADR hearings that the Hunts wall apparently was pretty controversial and some people weren't in favor of it, and now people love it, is feedback that we got from ADR.
I think it was a matter of the vine growing on the wall. Anyone else on the council have any comments regarding this item? Is anyone we'll open it up to public. Is there any member of the public who wishes to address the council regarding this application? Anybody on Zoom?
There is nobody on Zoom.
Okay. Does someone wish to make a motion? I'll bring it back to the council. Does someone wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion with that amendment for the enforceable condition of the vine growing on it, that we move to approve.
And I'll second with Elizabeth's condition.
Councilmember McMillan? Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Mayor Cool?
Aye.
Councilmember Breckus?
Aye.
All right, with a vote of 4, the motion passes.
Welcome back, Bill. I hope you enjoyed your hiatus. The next item on the consent, on the planning calendar is 2 Pomeroy Road. Will you introduce that for us, please?
Yes. The applicant at 2 Pomeroy is requesting approval of design review and a demolition permit. The project includes replacing old windows for new windows. The project also includes replacing the existing siding from T11 to Western red cedar shingles.
Does any member of the council wish further discussion on this item? Does any member of the public wish further discussion on this item?
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
Okay, we'll bring it back to council for a decision and a motion.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second?
Councilmember McMillan? Councilmember Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Mayor Cool?
Aye.
Councilmember Breckus?
Aye.
All right, with a vote of 5, the motion passes.
The next item is 50 Wellington, design review and variance. Would you introduce that one, please?
The applicant at 50 Wellington is requesting approval for design review and a variance. The applicant is requesting to renovate the rear yard and remove and replace landscape structures at single-family residential property. The applicant proposes an arbor structure, a custom outdoor kitchen, and a fireplace structure. The existing impermeable stone patio will also be removed and be replaced with new permeable stone patio. The project also includes replacing the existing auto gate and adding a trash enclosure. All of the improvements are proposed in the rear and side yard setback. Therefore, a variance is required to allow for the construction of the landscape structures within the side and rear yard setback. The home is currently under renovation, and the property owners like to make the landscape improvements during the construction.
Thank you. Does any member of the council wish to further discuss this item? Does any member of the public wish to request further discussion of this item?
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
Okay, that being the case, I'll bring it back to the council for action.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2298.
Second?
Councilmember McMillan? Councilmember Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Councilmember Cool?
Aye.
Councilmember Burkus.
Aye.
All right, with a vote of 5, the motion passes.
The next item on our agenda is for the town council to receive a progress report on the Ross Facilities Master Plan project. Discuss alternative concept options presented and provide direction to the staff on the three concepts.
Yes.
You're handling that?
I'm handling the first part of it, thank you. Yes,
Okay.
good evening, Mayor Cool and council members. Just a quick refresh, the town of Ross is moving forward with the preparation of a facility master plan for the town's municipal facilities and emergency services, not including fire, but including both police and paramedic. These facilities presently include Ross Town Hall, Ross Public Safety Building, a Public Works Building, and a portable building immediately adjacent to Town Hall. There are a range of services and functions that occupy this site, including the town council chambers, administrative offices, documents and record storage, the Development Services Permit Center, police or public works, and a cellular communications facility. On-site parking is also provided on this site to support these services and functions. On October 13th, 2022, the town council approved a consultant services agreement in the amount of $162,285 for preparation of the town master's facilities plan and authorize a town manager to execute an agreement with the KPA group. At the February 9th, 2023 town council meeting, the KPA group presented findings and concepts based on their initial site visits, programming changes, kickoff discussions with staff, interviews, and review of the town's relevant codes and ordinances. The KPA group presented 3 options at that town council meeting. Town council had questions and comments on concepts, including the height of some of the buildings, number of parking spaces provided, traffic flow onto Lagunitas Road, secure police parking, 6 housing units, timing of the project, the size of the public works yard, project costs, town hall removal or preservation, and when the fire department would be leaving the town facilities. The KPA group has been working closely with town staff to advance the project and refine concepts based on that February 9th town council meeting. Included in KPA's report are 3 concepts, concept A, B, and C, as well as cost estimates for those 3 concepts. All 3 concepts retain town hall, add additional parking spaces, contain secured parking for police vehicles, and propose changes to circulation. Tonight, the purpose of this agenda item is for KPA to go into more detail about each concept, A, B, and C, and to inform the council on different public outreach options. Staff has heard from Ross residents that more public outreach is needed. Staff would like the council to provide direction on what their preferred outreach is, as well as provide feedback on each of the concept after KPA has made their presentation. And tonight, KPA here with us tonight is Paul Powers and Matthew Evans, representing KPA here in Town Hall. They will go over their concepts, answer any questions you may have. We also have 2 members of their firm on Zoom as well. I'm open for questions, or we'll hand it over to KPA and then we can ask all the questions.
Gentlemen, welcome back. I need one more chair.
I'll move, yeah, I'm just looking for your presentation.
that we have two of our team members on Zoom, and one of our team members, Cindy, is going to be showing a 3D model, and we hope that it comes through clearly, but chance it might not. So just wanted to give you guys that little warning. Thank you. Okay, good evening, Mayor Cole and council members. Thank you very much for allowing us to provide you with an update to the Civic Center Master Plan. KPA has continued to work closely with town staff to confirm the department programs, advance the project, and refine concepts based on feedback from the February 9th council meeting. So the follow-up concepts for tonight's presentation portray three viable planning options, each of which includes a rough order of magnitude estimated cost range that is based on 2023 cost parameters and identifies favorable and less favorable attributes of each concept respectively. Concepts A and B plan for a single-story facility, and concept C is two-story in its configuration. And all concepts shown maintain town hall with renovation and include 6 units of housing in the existing corporation yard. Thank you. So beginning with concept A, concept A maintains the public safety facade with new construction behind and connecting to the rear of town hall. Shown here is a 3D aerial view of what concept A will look like in terms of building massing, scale, and location on the site. And right now is where I'd like to introduce Cindy Chen to explain this model in a little bit more detail. So I think Cindy, you should be able to present.
So, hi everyone, this is Cindy at the KPA Group. I'm going to share my screen here to present the 3D model of the concept A. Let's see, thank you. Can the host please grant me the permission to share the screen?
We're working on that Cindy right now.
You should be able to share screens now, Cindy.
Okay. Thank you, can you see it?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Cindy.
Okay.
So these diagrams that we're going to show tonight are not, representative in any way of what the final facility is going to look like. They just are trying to portray the general scale of the buildings, the massing of the buildings, the location adjacent, how the location of the buildings relates to Sir Francis Boulevard, as well as identify the areas of improved site circulation amongst the concepts. So in this concept A, the only one we're going to be showing the 3D model in, but I wanted to, start here, so hopefully provide a better understanding to the town about what some of the parameters that we're including in the plan are. So Cindy, do you mind zooming in slowly to the new realigned entrance drive at Laurel Grove, right there next to the public safety facade? Sorry, so not Lagunitas, Cindy, the other one? Okay, so starting here, you can see that we have a entrance and exit to the site that is to the right of the public safety facade. And the building that you see where Cindy has her cursor right now to the right of the entrance is actually a separate facility for paramedics, apparatus, and dormitory space. Okay, Cindy, can you go down Francis Drake a little bit? and around to Lagunitas, please. Thank you. So in this concept, we are portraying a single building that connects from behind the facade of public safety to the rear of Town Hall. So shown here is kind of a new public courtyard that we have at the front. And that would be one of the main entrances to the new facility, be through this area here. And Cindy, if you don't mind, can we go down Lagunitas, kind of wrap around the other side of Town Hall? Thank you very much. So two of the concepts that we are showing tonight, this concept and the next one, involve this new entrance-only configuration off of Lagunitas Road. So the idea here is that people would be able to pull in from the rear of the site into either one of these adjacent parking spaces or further beyond into the main parking lot. Cindy, can you wrap around just a little bit more, please? Thank you very much. And so this would allow, a little bit improved site circulation. Circulation is now around the building as opposed to through the buildings. This allows most of the, main portion of the site to be used for facilities efficiently. And it also, separates traffic from going between Town Hall and public safety as is currently. As you can see, that new drive off Lagunitas is, a fairly significant change to the site. So there is some additional expense that comes along there. But generally, that is what we wanted to show you guys tonight. Are there any questions right here?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand that main entrance plaza in the front, because nobody will be approaching this building from the front. They'll either be parking in the back if they come in, or they'll be parking at the post office, and they'll be walking over, and they'll still enter from the back. So I don't see how an entry plaza works from the front of the building. People won't be approaching it from Sir Francis Drake.
You're correct. So we were thinking only pedestrians would be entering the building from that section, but it also allows the opportunity for the town to present something that might be, a little bit more visually appealing or something special along Francis Drake that could be utilized kind of as the showcase entrance.
I see. I mean, if for landscaping and beauty, I think that's fine. But I think if it's being designed for function, that's not the function I see, happening with this building. I see people coming in, if they're not going to enter through Town Hall as they do now, they'll be entering from the back, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are there any other questions by members of council at this time?
I had a question. This is concept A, right?
Mm-hmm.
For concept A, where we've got 40 parking stalls compared to 24, does that include the 4 secured parking spots and then?
It does not. It does, however, include, the accessible parking spots, and every other standard parking spot is included in that 40 number, but the secured parking for police and public works is separate.
And where is that secured parking area for the police?
The secured parking for the police is actually in between the trash enclosures and the paramedics facility. So right there where Cindy has her cursor.
And then is that parking area, is that also for the 6 units?
No, the parking for the 6 units, we are underneath each unit. So we have a garage underneath each unit.
So like a parking spot per kind of. And out of curiosity, I mean, are things like that things that we should really be waiting for once we hire an architect, because there'll be further finessing of these plans, or?
In terms of, trying to identify the final number of parking spaces. Yeah, I think what we want to show here is that there's definitely an opportunity for an increased number of spaces. Whether that is 38 or 42, that will be determined, in the final design.
Okay, thank you.
And I just have a question on the paramedic building. And I know we're not supposed to be like designing, but is it just going to be a blank wall on Sir Francis Drake? That's what it looks like. It looks kind of cold.
Unfortunately, yeah, I'm sorry it looks like that, but it is not going to be just a blank wall. There's ample opportunity for that Public Works wing to incorporate the same architectural style as the facade, or to, portray something itself. But the blank wall, as you see there, would have some detail on it for sure, in all cases.
And the way it's laid out is the paramedics' sleeping quarters are in the front on Sir Francis Drake, and then the bay for the ambulance is behind. Is that right?
I believe that is correct.
And I was thinking for those guys, wouldn't it be great if they could not be sleeping right on Sir Francis Drake?
Mhm.
Is that possible, or is the turning radius of the paramedic vehicle such that you can't push that to the street?
That would be a little bit of an issue. We wanted the paramedics to be able to pull in far enough to where they wouldn't really cause a blockage for that, 30 seconds, 1 minute while they're parking. We also located them there for ideal access to serve the community, as opposed to somewhere from, behind the site, kind of how they are currently. I mean, the response time from here is improved.
Is there any reason why you couldn't have the ambulance exit frontward and put the living quarters behind?
That's a really good idea, actually. And no, there's no real reason other than additional site expense.
Why would there be additional site expense?
Because the drive right now doesn't go, all the way into the front of the building. We would have to expand the asphalt portion of the roadway and allow Public Works an area to enter. There's
You mean
also
the paramedics are exiting onto Lagunitas? Is that how they're leaving the site?
I'm sorry, I might have misunderstood the question.
My question is, why couldn't you have the ambulances in the front of the ambulance in the front of the building, and the living quarters or whatever else was going to be in that building behind it, so that the ambulances could exit directly onto Sir Francis Drake?
We were hoping to avoid ambulances having to back up onto the street while they're pulling out. I just wanted to give a little bit of.
There's not enough, that building isn't far enough back for that?
Right now, currently, no.
Is there any reason we couldn't move it back far enough to do that?
Just that it eats into the other areas, specifically here, the police yard. It's somewhat of a tight squeeze to fit the appropriate program on the site along with the housing. We were able to do it, but that is why. Yeah.
Are there any other questions by members of the council? Krista?
Excuse me, I just wanted to follow up on Councilmember McMillan's comment or question about the living space for the paramedics. Part of their building also includes, it's their house, so kitchen and a living area, and they have like a little desk place and storage. So I think that the architects could come up with a way that, maybe that living area is closer to the street, and then of course insulated windows and things like that, so they could make sure they get a good night's sleep when they're not working.
And you had a question?
Yes. So in this model, where's the main entrance to the town facilities? If you come and you have a question about a permit or building, are you entering through the front or are you entering through the back? Where's the main entrance?
I think, yeah, there's a little confusion. There's one entry point off Lagunitas. There's also an entrance and exit off of Sir Francis Drake.
So there are
you
two
can-
main doors to town hall?
There's one entrance off Lagunitas, so only if you're coming,
Yeah.
and then there's an entrance and exit on Sir Francis
No, I don't mean for
Drake.
cars, I mean for people.
We're talking
If you're
about-
walking
Building, I'm
in,
sorry.
if you're walking to town hall and you have business, where's the door?
So the door to town hall would be the door that exists now, but we'd also have another door that would be kind of, you know, behind this tree out here, and one on the opposite side that would be accessible from the parking lot.
But the door to town hall, that's not going to have town offices. I mean, that won't have the town clerk or the, I mean, isn't there like
Correct.
sort of a main desk
Cindy,
where
can you go
people-
wrap around to the back of the building where the main entrance, where that arrow is? So do you see the white arrow right there?
Yes?
That is where we were anticipating the main entrance would be,
Okay.
through there.
So that will be staff. Someone will walk in and there'll be a
Mm-hmm.
desk and there'll be a staff person there. Okay, so that's the entrance. That's basically the new entrance for town services. Whereas right now it's town hall because, I mean, and the portable, it's both. And again, to just clarify, there's also a way to get into the building from the
Yeah.
front,
So
but it's just
Cindy-
not a staff desk, it's a hallway that goes to the front?
So, Cindy, if
back?
you just go back to where you were before, please, and zoom into that back arrow a little bit. So the idea here is that lobby would have, you know, two entrances to it. This would be kind of a lobby with a public service counter and, you know, general wayfinding directions throughout the building. So people would be able to enter from either side of that lobby, and where the actual counter is in relation to each one of those doors hasn't been determined yet, and that could be decided as part of the design, whether we want it to, you know, be more
Is the
accommodating.
concept, is the concept to leave the arrangement of the offices in the town hall essentially as they are now?
No.
Okay.
You know, is it safe to have two doors to town hall? Or maybe I'm overthinking this. I mean, I'm used to the idea of like a main entrance that's sort of secure and safe and not a back door that somebody could come in. Krista?
May I add, and correct me if I'm wrong, but absolutely, safety and efficiency and all that is something we definitely want to achieve out of this project. I want to make sure you understand that the main entrance here to our council chambers, if that wouldn't be kept open unless we had staff. We don't want people coming in and, because this room will have supplies and AV equipment and things like that. So I wouldn't envision that this door here is kept open. In fact, right now, unless we have somebody physically in here, we keep this door locked because there's not somebody here. But as for the main building, I think that, you know, the idea is that people come in through a door and we have one central permit counter, one lobby area, they're greeted, and they are efficiently provided service. I know that a lot of town halls have an entrance that serves people that are parking, but oftentimes they have another entrance which is for pedestrians that maybe fronts a more of a major street that is maybe a little bit more ceremonial. Have you seen that? That's something I'm familiar
And
with.
typically there's multiple entrances. So
And then the town services would be in the building that is shown back here behind the town hall, is that right? Planning and
yep.
engineering and so forth. Sorry.
Just another question. It might not be the right time to be asking this question, but the range for this concept is 23 to 26 million. And the range for concept B, which puts in a new archway or some other thing.
So B goes away with the public safety facade, and all the construction is new.
So basically, if we want to retain the facade of the public safety building, it's an additional $4 million.
Between 2.5 and 3.3 is our estimate, which we do have a short slide on later in the
Okay,
presentation.
so I'm getting ahead. Okay.
No, no.
And I have one last question. If I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
I'm wondering about the number of parking spots. Going from 26 to 40 parking spots I try to do the math, I think it's a 66% increase. It's a big increase. And I'm just not sure that that's necessary. I would like to see some softening area where there could be a garden and where the staff could take breaks and eat lunch. We could have public functions outside in a garden. instead of having so much hardscape all the way around.
Thank you.
And my question's almost the opposite. I was going to ask on Lagunitas, are we losing any parking spaces because this shows an exit onto Lagunitas? There are two spots
We are
now.
losing both of those 2 parking spaces.
You're losing both of them?
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm not sure, Jill, I sort of like the idea of more parking because it means that people who come to do business can come to Town Hall, park and do their business, whereas before they're parking at the post office. That's pretty crowded already, especially with all of the new schools and things in that area. So we can talk more, but I'm not opposed to more parking. I think it's a benefit to our residents. But I do agree there should be an outdoor area for people to sit and have lunch.
Will we be doing some kind of a parking study before we determine the number of parking spots we would propose? Would the architect figure that out, or is that something that you all would do?
It's not something that we're planning on doing at this time. It can be part of the architect's scope, whether if you guys, wanted that to be done, yeah.
All right, are there any other questions by members of the council regarding concept A? If not, I think what I'm going to try opening it to the public for concept A. Is there anybody in the public currently who wants to ask questions regarding this? Let's limit them for now to this one plan. Seeing none, do we have any on Zoom?
I do have somebody on Zoom, person 14156.
That's a prison number?
This is David Belsker from One El Camino Bueno. I logged on late and I just wasn't sure where you were in the agenda. So that's why I raised my hand, because we are on the agenda for something, but I don't have a comment on this project.
Asked your item.
Yeah.
We approved your item.
Yeah, you're
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we actually have no questions about this one specific project, so why don't you go on?
Thank you very much. Okay, so you can go to the next slide. So here's a street view image, and then here's, concept A as the plan. So concept A proposes to retain and modernize the town hall building and restore the majority.
Just did A.
There's just a little detail I'm
okay.
sorry for,
We're
yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Got it. Sorry.
So, yeah, propose to retain and modernize the town hall building and restore the majority of the public safety building facade. So this new construction would connect the original buildings together and create a continuous, singular, one-story building to house all government functions. Paramedics is proposed for a separate building and located for optimal access to serve the community. Public Works would be housed at the rear of the building with the Public Works yard adjacent, and police would be housed behind the reconstructed facade with additional secured police parking adjacent to the paramedics apparatus bay. In concept A, we have a total building area of 13,250 square feet. Approximately 3,350 square feet of this is restored area, with 7,750 being new area for town government functions. In addition, we have 2,150 square feet of new building space for paramedics proposed. And this concept allows for 40 parking stalls, which compares to an existing stall count of 24. And again, this concept is estimated to cost between $23 and $26 million. So now moving on to some of the attributes and considerations of concept A. Positive attributes are shown here and include the following. The facade of the public safety facility is maintained. The new facility is able to maintain the Spanish colonial revival architectural style. We have improved site circulation coming from a realigned main entrance and exit to the lighted intersection at Laurel Grove Avenue and a new entrance-only access at Lagunitas Boulevard. Town work efficiencies will improve due to all departments being housed in a singular overall building. Paramedics are housed in a separate facility with ideal access to serve the community. And a secured police parking yard contains parking for 4 police vehicles. We also have a public pedestrian entry court that allows welcoming presence from Sir Francis Drake. And we are providing a new public entry plaza at the rear of the building. So necessary items for consideration also include these items which may be considered negative. There is increased expenditure due to the preservation of the public safety facade. The facade must be detailed and portions reconstructed, and complexities related to the selective demolition of the facade and the existing building are present. The main building will be located on site at the same location as the existing public safety facility. There might be additional considerations or implications to the facade regarding final site grading. You might, lose an inch or 2 of height or something like that. Building maintenance over the life of the building will involve specific maintenance requirements of that facade portion. Thank you, Rebecca. So now we're going to move on to concept B.
Can I just ask a question about the maintenance entailed in maintaining the facade? What do you estimate that would cost over time? And how long is that facade going to last? Do you have any idea?
I think it was, done right and constructed well, it would last just as long as the rest of the building. But I think we'd have to pay close attention to, making sure that facade always looked as presentable as it could be. There might be additional implications regarding to the materials and the use of the facade if the new construction behind isn't, exactly the same.
Before you said it was $3.5 million, is that what you said?
2.5 to 3.3 is our estimate, and we've used 3 million in our cost estimates for now.
And that's just for does that include the maintenance, or that's just
That's just
to keep it?
The maintenance costs aren't, super significant, but.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to concept B. Concept B involves complete replacement of the public safety facility with new construction that will connect to the rear of Town Hall. Shown here is a 3D aerial view of what concept B will look like in terms of building massing, scale, and location on the site. And the changes to the site, including the realigned main entrance at Laurel Grove and the entrance-only drive at Lagunitas, are both present here as well. Next slide, please, Rebecca. So shown here is a street level view of concept B. And if you notice, the building is moved slightly closer to Sir Francis Drake. Okay, next slide, Rebecca. Thank you. So concept B proposes only to retain and modernize the town hall building. The public safety building would be entirely removed for a new civic center tied to town hall that creates a continuous singular 1-story building to house government functions. Paramedics is again housed in a separate building with in a location for optimal access to serve the community. Public Works is housed at the rear of the building with the Public Works yard adjacent. The police are housed at the street-facing portion with additional secured parking adjacent to the apparatus bay for paramedics. And we have the same total building area here of 13,250 square feet. Here, 1,970 is the restored area, and that would be the town hall building. And 9,130 square feet is the new building area for town government functions. And then we have the same 2,150 square feet for paramedics, 40 parking stalls as well in concept B. And this concept is estimated to cost between 19 and 22 million. So the attributes and considerations of concept B, the positive ones include that there's increased building presence from the street due to the main building being moved closer to Sir Francis Drake Boulevard. The new facility is able to maintain the Spanish colonial revival architectural style or apply a new architectural style. We have the same improved site circulation from the realigned main entrance and the new entrance only at Lagunitas. Town work efficiencies will improve due to all departments being housed in a singular building. Paramedics are housed in a separate facility with ideal access to serve the community. We have the same secured police parking yard for police vehicles and the same public works yard. The public pedestrian entry court allows increased welcoming presence from Sir Francis Drake. And the public entry plaza at the rear of the building is actually a little bit smaller than in Concept A because the building was moved closer to the street. So we have more space for a plaza at the rear. Thank you, Rebecca. And some of the less positive considerations for Concept B include that the building setback from Sir Francis Drake may be reduced. So, setback and street presence are, kind of opposite, and both can be considered positive. The facade of the public safety facility, again, is no longer maintained in Concept B.
Why couldn't you maintain the arches in this plan? Or is it a cost matter?
You could, but it's pretty much Concept A in the plan. If you maintain them, that's pretty much what Concept A is.
I don't understand, and maybe I missed something. Why couldn't we use those arches for an ambulance to go in and out?
I'm not positive if the dimensions are enough for what the ambulance is currently using as their main vehicle. We could look into that. Yeah. Too small? Okay.
What was that?
Too small. I have a question about concept.
Yeah, go ahead.
On Concept B, if you could go back, so keep going back to that stop. Could you do something that's similar to the arches that exist now on where Cindy's cursor is? To make it look very similar to what we have now?
Yes, we can. And we will jump forward here to show you kind of what that might look like. The next one, Rebecca. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Can you tell us what you're showing us?
So what we're showing here is a rendering of what the new Town Civic Center might look like while maintaining the existing architectural style.
But this is Concept B.
This is Concept B, yes.
And it's now a two-story building?
I think it's still one, it's just, we increased some presence, yeah.
So in Concept A and B, you mentioned there's a plaza in the rear. Can you share a little bit more details about that? Is there some area that's a courtyard with tables where, people could eat outdoors?
That was the idea.
And is that right where the entry to Town Hall is, or is that somewhere else? Where on these, on A and B, would that be?
If you can see, we have that little orange circle.
Yes?
So the idea was that it'd be kind of a part of the entrance, right in front of the entrance. So if somebody was entering into the new building, people could be, sitting, eating lunch at some tables kind of right next to that.
So it's sort of a courtyard and an eating area. I mean, it's kind of, it's, okay. And you're saying it's a little bit larger in Concept B because the building is moved further forward.
Correct.
Okay.
Can we go back to the plan that we were looking, or that'll do? Am I right? I'm confused about the entrance from Lagunitas. On one of these plans that I think it was Concept B, but maybe not. Coming down Lagunitas, are you going to have to make a 135-degree turn to get in?
No. Entrance only. So if you were coming from Sir Francis Drake, let's say turning right on Lagunitas.
Oh, coming the other way.
Yeah, if you're coming the other way, you can't enter that way. So you're gonna have to take a left on Sir Francis Drake, and then you'll be at a lighted intersection at Laurel Grove that will align with a left turn into the site.
Once the light changes.
You can only enter from one, if it's only entrance and it's only from one direction, how helpful is that? Like, why is that part of these plans?
It's helpful for the paramedics to enter back into the site. It's helpful for you, as the mayor just mentioned, everyone wouldn't have to wait at that stoplight to turn left into the site, or even from the other way. Just another way of allowing vehicles to come in.
It's helpful for anyone who lives in Winter Park who's going to be coming down Sir Francis Drake and turning right and going in.
So they could go right, in between the
Yep.
paramedic and the town hall. I mean, that's sort of, it's just basically the current entrance moves slightly down Sir Francis Drake. It's kind of redundant. There are almost like two entries for people coming from Winship Park.
On concept A, I thought, maybe we have to go back to it, that you had two separate entrances off Lagunitas.
I believe.
Was there, or couldn't you make another entrance through that triangle so that you could avoid the 135-degree turn?
Right now, they're not allowing that.
Oh, maybe that's it. It's been suggested. It's been suggested.
I believe that is the case. The bridge is in the way. Yes. We haven't looked at that closely enough to say for sure that's not a possibility, but unlikely.
Sure.
You're the concept site planners. I'm just wondering, isn't it likely that if we hired an architect, they're going to put a fresh set of eyes on here and say, I'd like a window over here. I'd like an arch over here. I'd like to move this over here. So I'm wondering, like, I'm just curious, like, how much we should try and get this right with you folks, and how much we should say, I mean, do we even have to say concept A versus concept B? They're really 3 or 4 million apart, which by the time we go out to bid, it'll be a totally different number. So I'm just wondering, is it not, I mean, this has been helpful, and I'm not suggesting it hasn't, but I'm just wondering, should we not then take it out to an architect, find someone we really like, get a little more understanding of the numbers and the possibilities and their own ideas before we, get married to site conditions you guys are showing us?
So
We have a slide that may help answer that question.
you have a very good point, actually.
Right. Which is, your question is.
You need to speak.
A very good question. One that we. Thank you. One that we've discussed, right? This question that you had is, where do we stop? Where does somebody else start? And how do we do that? At this point, we're trying to define some questions for you that are, that can answer that, right? Should we keep town hall, right? We think you should. That's our recommendation. Keep this building. It's a very nice building. We think that, and that's a decision that you can make going forward to the architect to say, yes, we want to keep town hall, and that will help that architect. Okay, that decision is made. Do you want to keep that facade piece for the additional and the problems that it causes? Is that worth the community? Evaluate that, and that would be helpful to the architect. Those two decisions are good decisions. This access piece that we're talking about is a third decision. There's not much of a decision there because you have to have 2 drives in order for the fire department to get in and out, and that's going to be required. The question is, do you come off 2 drives off of Sir Francis Drake, or do you come off of Lagunitas? If you come off of Lagunitas, you can stay with a 1-story building. If you come off and you want to have, and you could show C for a second here, if you come off of, have 2, then you're going to have to go to a 2-story building. So those couple of decisions will frame enough information for the architect you have hired to be able to go, okay, we understand what your program is, what you want. The other thing that we've identified is what's your program, right? And here's another question they may ask. We've separated paramedics out of the building and into their own separate building, which we think is a good function from a disruptive standpoint, as well as a long-term, what do we do with them, right? Meaning the paramedics over a longer term. So those 4 or 5 questions are the ones that we think that are important for you to answer. Not so much the money, because I think you're correct on the money, because the delta here is small. I don't think you should make your decision on money. I think you should make it on how do you want it to perform, right? We went a little bit further to help identify that, you know, we're showing block diagrams. They're very ugly from an architectural standpoint. They're, you know, the question about, is that the facade? No, that's not the facade. That's just a box sitting there to represent the scale. We showed a couple of diagrams to show that you could have this. We did a Spanish colonial one. We did a, I don't know, what did we do, a craftsman one? To represent that. So first, the Spanish colonial one, you can take your existing architecture and expand on it and do new buildings and have that match and have that be your community's. Or you could do a craftsman one, which is, in my opinion, as I look around your community, other than a couple of buildings, more appropriate to the rest of your community from what I see. But I'm not your architect. We're planning right now. We are architects. But we did want to show you that you have, these are 2 styles. The architect you hire, as you said, they're going to have their own ideas. They're going to have their own ideas of how to reconfigure the plan, and possibly even a couple of little site things. We're changing this constantly. We are. You know, in our office, we're moving stuff around. How does this work? How does that work? They would continue to do the same thing. So does that help maybe frame this in a bigger sense of really, how can you help us with the report to help you there? And it was maybe in those 5 questions that you could deliberate on, and maybe there'd be another one.
But is it necessary for us to choose between concept
think it's
A, B,
necessary.
and
I do-
C?
I do not
Because, I
think-
mean,
right.
I could like to save the facade, but if someone sold me on the idea that it's not gonna look cheesy, redo it,
Right.
it's gonna look really great, I could be sold on that. You know, I mean, I'm just wondering, you guys have done a great job in getting us to conceptually at least be able to bring it out to the public and show them, here's where we're maybe going.
Well, I think that's a very good point as well. We haven't really asked the public, and that's part of our plan, is to go to the public and say, what do you think of these? And you know, gaining that input to be able to, if there's a time, there'll be a time where a decision is appropriate. And I think you've hit it on the head. You know, here's kind of where we're at, and what does your architect think with that, and where would they like to head? And then how do you feel about their direction? Seems appropriate. Versus, we're going to do this, but maybe that became obvious. You know, I'm not sure, because I'm not sitting at that desk. We're here. Maybe that becomes obvious to you. To us, you could do all 3 of those work, and there's combinations that you could do as well. So we're trying to define the parameters, the roadblock, the program, a little bit of the price, a little bit of the schedule, a little bit of some of the criteria for you to present to yourselves, to your community. So hopefully, you know, as you said, it's been helpful, but I don't know that the full answer is there.
I have a question about the driveway. You said you need 2 driveways. We only have 1 now. So why do we need 2? Yeah, this is about, do we need the Lagunitas entrance? Right now, we have 1.
Yep.
We
The
have
fire
1.
truck needs to get out and get out. A fire truck needs to move around your site. That's the 2 entryway. Right now, you have a fire truck can get in and around the site, because there's 2 entrances and exits. It's very similar to that one.
In front of,
Oh, I'm sorry. The building's burning, the fire truck has to come to the building. That's the thing. I'm sorry. I forgot about the fire. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I could see where that could cause some confusion. Yes, the building's on fire and needs to be put out. It's required.
Wait, but I still, so you're saying what we have now is not up to code? I
No,
mean,
it is. No,
Because we only have 1 driveway now. We only have 1 entrance on Sir Francis Drake. We don't have 2. Oh, really? I see. Okay.
Yeah, Julie?
Just a process question, Town Manager Johnson. When would ADR weigh in on what we're doing?
Rebecca and I have spent some time, I might be punting it over to Rebecca. I think that they can, they could weigh in at several points. We believe, I'm handing it over, I'm punting.
Well, as Krista said, I think at any point along the process, I think, we have these concepts now. I think we probably want some public input, if that's the way the council would like to go. And then maybe we have ADR look at it conceptually after that. And, then go out to bid for architects. We hire an architect. I think ADR would be more involved when we get to sort of the architectural portion of this project.
I mean, as far as the overall, Elizabeth, you're wondering like, what do we need to decide? I mean, I'm not sure how much we need to decide tonight, but it seems like the main topics are, do we keep town hall? I mean, I think absolutely yes.
Should we finish concept C?
Oh, we didn't
maybe
do C.
before we
Okay.
start this part of the
Sure.
discussion? You want to go ahead with concept
Sure.
C?
Yes. So concept C is two-story in its configuration. And can you back up, Rebecca, just a couple slides to the aerial view? One more. Thank you. So as you can see here, concept C, the new drive at Laurel Grove is there, realigned to the intersection, and we have the existing drive that is currently between Town Hall and the public safety. That drive remains, with renovations between Town Hall and the new town government facility. And that facility is now 2 stories, houses all town government functions instead of the paramedics. And this concept, you only have 35 parking stalls instead of 40, still a significant increase from what's existing. You maintain the secured police parking and the public works yard, and paramedics is again in their own facility with ideal access to serve the community. But if you notice, the entrance drive at Lagunitas is gone, and the site circulation is a little bit more familiar to what you have now.
Why, I'm sure there's an obvious answer to this, but why do we have to go to 2 stories?
Just because of the amount of space, the square footage space the program needs, it wouldn't be able to fit on the site as 1 story, especially not with the within the 50-foot distance requirement from the creek.
Okay, you want to tell us about the pros and cons of
Yes.
C?
Okay. One more, yeah. Okay, so positive attributes of concept C is that we have increased building presence from the street as the main facility is moved closer to Sir Francis Drake. Town Hall is completely standalone with no connections to the rear to a portion of a new building. The new 2-story facility is able to maintain the architectural style as existing or apply a new architectural style. And we have improved site circulation from the realigned main entrance and exit at Laurel Grove only. No Lagunitas entrance here. The existing circulation drive between Town Hall and the public safety facility is maintained, allowing Town Hall to stand completely separately again. The town work efficiencies will improve again because all departments are being housed in one singular building. Paramedics are housed in a separate facility with ideal access to serve the community. We have the secured police parking yard with parking for 4 police vehicles, and the new public plaza adjacent to Town Hall off of Lagunitas Boulevard. So this is kind of the area where the drive was currently. There's an opportunity to beautify that area as an additional plaza area in Concept C. Another consideration here is that the renovation costs to the site are a little bit less because there's less changes overall. And some of the negative attributes of Concept C include the reduction in setback from Sir Francis Drake. The two-story facility requirements include elevator and stairwell and maintenance costs of these systems over the life of the building. The public pedestrian entry court is no longer present, and the facade of public safety is not maintained. This concludes an overview of the individual concepts, and we would like to move on to Kittle Park before discussing the overview and of attributes of each concept. So we wanted to touch on this, that development opportunities for Kittle Park may be considered and incorporated into any concept option chosen, should the town wish to provide improvements to this area. So we've compiled some inspirational images and ideas for potential improvements to Kittle Park. So Kittle Park could be used as a fitness park. There could be a labyrinth there, public art, some sort of lighted art exhibit, covered patio, or shade structure is another possibility for Kittle Park. Okay, so just going through a summary of the pros and cons of each concept here. Concept A, we have the facade maintained. We have the Spanish colonial revival architectural style, and we provide new site circulation. The cons of concept A include the expenditure related to the facade. The building is at the same location, and the life cycle maintenance costs of that facade portion. Concept B, pros include increased street presence, as well as the choice of architectural style, the same or new. New site circulation is also provided in concept B. Cons of concept B include the reduced setback from Sir Francis Drake and the fact the facade is no longer present. Pros of concept C include town hall is completely standalone, as it is currently. There's familiar site vehicular circulation using the existing drive adjacent to town hall and the realigned drive at Laurel Grove. Let's see what else. There is also less complexity to the site renovation in concept C, again due to the less changes to the site. The cons of concept C include the setback reduction from Sir Francis Drake, the requirements of the elevator and the stairwell and two-story circulation, as well as we are losing the facade. Okay, so we just wanted to do another quick reminder here of overall square footages. So concepts A and B are the same size, 13,200 square feet of program area. Concept C is slightly larger, 13,500. That comes from the additional space required for the two-story circulation components. And then we're showing our cost ranges here. So we have concept A between $23 and $26 million, concept B between $19 and $22 million, and concept C between $21 and $24 million. So shown here is a cost estimate breakdown of the various building categories, how they relate to concepts A, B, and C.
We have that attached to the report. I think we'd like to get a copy of that.
Okay.
Okay, does that complete your report?
It's a little better. Thank you. So this is kind of just an overview of how the different costs for each concepts break down. We have separated out the modernization of town hall, the police department, the town administration, public works, the paramedic space, support spaces at the main facility, site and parking improvements, accessories and signage, and we have the two-story circulation category, which doesn't apply here, the $3 million for the facade, as well as $645,000 for demolition and alignment. So the subtotal you see here is 19.8 million, and then we're adding a 10% design contingency on top of that, 5% design oversight during construction contingency, and a 10% construction contingency for construction management. Sorry, thank you. So that's where the total price comes. And we're showing an example figure here of 24.7 for concept A, which is in our range. And again, concept B is the least expensive concept because it does not involve either the two-story costs or the facade maintenance costs. And then concept C is kind of middle of the ground. You have less cost for site renovation and a little bit more costs related to the two-story configuration of that facility. So
Is it true that maintaining the arches and the Spanish architecture adds about 2.3 million to the cost?
yeah, we're thinking between 2.5 and 3.5, basically. Yeah. And so the next slide, Rebecca actually explained some of those numbers about maintaining the facade. So we've broken down the different categories: design engineering, selective demolition, new structural supports, restoration of the actual facade, temporary shoring of the facade, and tying the facade into the new construction. So I've provided a low range and a high range there just so you can kind of understand what the different components of this effort would be. Okay, so we wanted to.
Could you go back to that just for a second? I know there's not a lot of questions there, but I would want to explain, because you will have questions as soon as you walk away. Why?
Is your mic on?
It should be. Is that good?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so the low range, high range of this facade, the new structural supports, the temporary shoring, the demolition, the engineering, it's kind of a difficult thing to do to keep the facade in place while you demolish it and not have it go away. There's a significant amount of the building that needs to go away because it's gone, meaning your building is shot. It needs to be replaced, and that includes this facade. So it's not a matter of just cutting off the building and redoing the facade. We have to cut off the building and still support that facade twice. Once while we cut it off, and then once while it's there permanently, and then we have to connect it to new. So that's what's pushing that cost up. So there's just a lot there to just maintain it and not lose it. So that's why that number is off the chart, if you will.
Yes.
I assume maintaining the facade would mean that the construction's going to take longer because it's going to be more complicated, not materially.
I don't think materially.
Yes.
When we looked at doing modernization of the facilities in 2020, the estimate that we got for the administration, paramedics, and police was around $14 million. And then it was similar for the fire station. And I'm wondering if you've had a chance to look at that estimate and compare that estimate with this estimate, and what the difference. I know there's inflation. I know there's time value of money and all that stuff.
There's a pretty significant difference in the site renovation costs. The original estimate didn't take into account the utilities reconfiguration for PG&E at Laurel Grove, and it also didn't take into account that new entrance drive at Lagunitas.
And the public works, I don't think was included.
Correct. The Public Works building was not.
40 parking stalls.
To the mayor?
Yeah.
I just wanted to add, I actually had the big binder in front of me from 220. I was just taking a look at all of it again, and yes, the public works, housing was not envisioned on the site. And so although these do not include the cost for constructing or planning or designing the housing, we do have to allocate space on the site for 6 units of housing, thereby, requiring the need to move and demo the Public Works building and build it. So that's a big chunk of it. And then, of course, I wonder if you can estimate the increase of construction costs since.
Then I would be
Me on
special.
the spot, yeah. Since I believe the set of estimates you're referring to were based on really early 2020 construction costs. Yeah. So 3 years ago, a little more than 3 years ago.
Yeah, so last year alone was 25%. 25% last year alone is what we saw here in the Bay Area in buildings that we did. Prior to that, it was 8s and 9s. Typically over time, it's been 4, 4.5. So the last 3 years have just been devastating to construction costs, devastating. And there are still, there's so many issues happening because contractors are so scared to bid public projects because they're stuck with the number. So they're all moving their numbers upward. No one has moved their number downward. And I haven't seen the numbers come back down yet. And I don't expect them to because they are getting the prices that they're asking for, that the market is. So the market's determining this cost. Unfortunately, that's where we're at.
Okay, yes.
One other question that maybe, I would think we're all familiar with the answer, but I'm not sure the public really understands why it's so necessary to redo these facilities that were originally built in the 1920s. And maybe one of you can just elaborate a little bit about why it is so necessary that we do this now.
Or maybe Mr. Simonich is the person to do that.
May I just give a introductory comment for our Public Works Director, Richard Simmons, because I am actually looking at the updated property condition assessment report dated August 2nd, 2020. And in the executive summary there, and I highlighted it, it says, it is difficult to categorize in order of importance the deficiencies in this property. There are current health issues due to the presence of mold, deficiencies in the structure of the building, both pests and structural, deficiencies in ADA accessibility, and non-compliance with the Essential Services Act requirements for public safety construction. That's my introduction for Rich.
Do you have anything to add?
No, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, if you, most of you might have been here when Tom Valet was the fire chief, and over 10 or 12 years ago, his comment, and it's in writing somewhere, that the only thing holding that building up is the termites. So it's been quite a while that it's been in an uninhabitable situation, and we've determined that to try to rehabilitate the existing structure is not cost effective. So Krista summed it up about 95%. Yeah.
Thanks, Rich. All right, I think I'm going to open it up to public questions if there are any, or comment. Again, you have a three-minute speaking limit. Does anyone in the audience here want to? Yes, Marcia.
To keep it efficient, I wrote it up. So tonight's meeting about the conceptual planning for the master facilities plan brings up a little bit, a general point that I'd like to make that I think is relevant, and also will bring back to what we're talking about. So I just wanted to tell you that as a board member of the RPOA, I have been approached on a number of issues that the town has been facing: the housing element, the facilities, formerly, getting rid of the fire, the whole firehouse discussion. And my response is, RPOA doesn't take a political position. So, we're not going to become activists one way or the other. However, what I do get is, well, we don't know. This has been sprung on us. We haven't had time. And I know, based on what I know, that you guys have made effort to do that. However, if I think about it, I think it would be great if we could figure out a way that there could be more communication out to the public, because I know people are kind of in an uproar about housing element and the facilities. So wondering if there might be a way to employ other means of communication. I know you send out the morning after, but I know people don't read that. I think a lot of people don't read that. And I'm not, I'm sorry to say that, but that's just the feedback I get. So the RPOA sends out an e-blast. We could incorporate certain key messages that you want. We're happy to do that. Age-friendly task force, the Ross Age-friendly task force, over 33% of the population is over 60. So we are working on communicating directly with that group. I think also if the Cindy could use very specific e-blasts that are about very important votes that are coming up or meetings that are coming up, and you have to tell people at least 3 times for it to even sink in. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think it would be helpful, and I think you all want to do what the town wants, and I think the residents want to feel like they can communicate. So my suggestion. And then I'd also just like to say separately, as a resident, that I really like the Spanish Revival style, and I would love to see some form of arches, whether they're constructed anew. I just would love to see that. So that's my little.
Thank you, Marcia. Is there anyone else in the room who wants to speak on this area? Is there anyone on Zoom?
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
Okay. We'll bring it back to council. This is not a matter for action, but I think we're being asked to give our views to kind of indicate to our consultants what our thinking is about some of the suggestions they're making. Elizabeth?
I'll just say that I think this has been really helpful. But I think that what I feel like is the obvious next step would be to go out and do some more public outreach. I think that probably we should at least have one day meeting or early evening meeting that maybe will catch some people. But secondly, talk about retaining an architect, and I don't know if that should be at the budget meeting or at a different meeting, but at least start consulting with someone, because I think if we found the person that we were going to retain, we would get further refinement of these 3 plans. I think they're all potentially good, but I think whoever we ultimately hire is going to have their own concepts about, what we do and how we do it. And I'm kind of not sure, if that person, if we can hire somebody, get some bids, and then that's the appropriate time to go out to voters with cost estimates. But I'm just not sure that we should keep going down this path of concept, because I have a feeling that you hire the architect and we could say the program is you do this or that, and they could say, well, I've rethought that, or here's why maybe you should rethink this. So I'm kind of feeling like we have done a sufficient job on the facilities, but I'm wondering if we shouldn't be moving on to the person that we're actually going to employ to, to take this to more of a fruition.
So I think still it might be helpful to get a sense of, well, first I agree, reaching out to residents would be very helpful, and we might have a late afternoon, early evening, like 5 to 7 p.m. meeting at the Ross Rec classroom office, and show the different options and have maybe a brief presentation so that residents can get up to speed about what we're doing, and that can be announced with 2 or 3 emails. So I think, and then maybe even the rough drawings of A, B, and C could be part of those emails, just to share with people what we're thinking about. So I think that obviously, I think everyone probably agrees that's the next step, but I think it can be helpful to get a sense of where we all are in terms of, say, style. So I think I prefer Spanish, the sort of the Spanish, what is it called, revival. It's the same style as the post office. It's the same style as the church. It's the same style as town hall. And I think that's the next issue is, do we keep it, yes or no? And I think that it would be a mistake to rebuild town hall. It's a beautiful building, and remodeling the inside a little bit so that the chairs could move and we could use it as a meeting place and not just for council meetings. I think that would be my preference. So Spanish style, keep town hall. And as far as the facade, I don't think we should be wedded to the old facade because I think it's old and crumbling and expensive. I think we should be wedded to the style, and depending on the function of the new building, it would be nice to have a facade that resembles the current facade, but I don't think we should keep the old one. And then the other thing that I think is kind of up for discussion, so that's style, the facade, town council, is the circulation. And I'm still not sold on this Lagunitas one way in from one direction only, except that it may, if it means that the new facilities can have a courtyard with benches and tables and plantings at the front, that I certainly think that would be the right way to go, because I think that might be the fifth element, that I think people should discuss, is that Concept C didn't have any courtyard or patio, and I think that's a real desirable feature, and it should be right at the main entrance to the town, to the town offices. So those are my comments on style, facade, council building, circulation, and courtyard.
Bill? Yeah, I think based on everything I've heard and seen so far, I really doubt that keeping the current facade is workable or even desirable. I agree with the comments that we ought to stick with the Spanish style. I think it's simply important that whatever we do, it ties in with the town hall that we all agree we should preserve. So it should look like this was all built at one time, not that there is an add-on. It's all consistent and it all ties together, and that would be fine. It might even be an improvement over what we have now. In terms of outreach, I think what we ought to do is something similar to what we did for the housing element, which is because we knew it would take people quite a while to get used to this and that it would be controversial, of course. And so I think we held a series of meetings and we had some renderings and ways for people to contribute. And I think something similar here would be desirable. On the other hand, I do think people will want to know, well, what will this look like before they really are ready to say yes or no, or, express a position. But now that gets into the architects, as Councilmember Breckus mentioned. So I'm not sure about the timing of this or the ordering of it, but I do think that public outreach is going to take some time, and I do think it is incumbent upon us to move forward with something, at least some, introductory thing. We did do a survey back in 2020, and we did have some discussion back then, but that I think that's now 3 years ago. So. We probably should start up with something fairly soon.
I agree with what everyone has said. I don't think it makes sense, short-term or long-term, to retain the original facade. I think it's kind of throwing good money after bad, but I think we should work very hard to make sure that the style is consistent with the town hall and the post office, and make it look like it's been here since 1920 when this thing was built. and not have it look like, the Richard Nixon Library, you know what I mean? And that's not a political statement. I just, we just don't want SoCal prefab, you know what I mean?
I gotcha.
I kind of like the circulation, having an alternative entrance and a courtyard. I think that kind of breaks stuff up. I think maybe instead of having a larger garden over here, we use Kittle Park for the garden for the staff and for public meetings, and have that be more of a gathering place. I would be interested in knowing what the staff recommends in terms of public outreach. I see some benefit of presenting these three concepts, although if we're kind of coming to a consensus about one or two, I don't want to confuse people. And we do need to get more outreach and more information shared with people, but maybe staff has a recommendation of the best way to do that.
Is it readily doable to take what we've talked about tonight and further refine down some of these elements, like I think all of us seem to be willing to let those arches go, provided the style is maintained? And just by the way, if you look at old pictures of the railroad station, when it was really a railroad station, it didn't look like it looks now. It looked like a railroad station, and at somewhere along the way, the railroad redid the station to make it look kind of Spanish look that it has now. But I basically agree with what my confreres up here have said, as far as needing considerably more public outreach. I at least want to be in the position, I probably won't be around when this occurs, but I want people to be in the position to be able to say, don't tell us that now, you had your chance years ago. With that, I think we are done on this subject, and unless anybody at the council wants to make any further comments.
Thank you. This was very helpful.
Yes, thank you to our consultants. I think this is really, you're right that what's happening is you're focusing our thinking, as you can see, and probably some significant changes, one significant change at least about those arches, can be seen out of what the comments have been tonight.
Thank you,
Thank
Mayor,
you all
very
very much. We're going to move on to our next item as soon as I figure out what it is. Do we want to take a short break? Okay, all right. All right, the next item on our agenda is a public hearing on a planning project involved at 34 Poplar Avenue. Rebecca?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The applicant is requesting approval for an ADU permit and a variance to construct a new ADU over the existing garage located at 34 Poplar Avenue. The project proposes to construct a new 710 square foot ADU over the existing garage and patio. The proposed ADU will be located behind the main house. The garage and main house are not connected, however, the ADU and home will share a wall. The ADU will have a balcony with metal guardrails and 6 skylights matching the design of the primary house. Due to the location of the ADU, it does not meet the 4-foot side yard setback, therefore requiring an ADU permit. The project also proposes to add 76 square feet to the existing garage in order to support the ADU above. The addition of 76 square feet to the garage requires a variance to exceed the allowable lot coverage and floor area. On July 11th, 2022, the applicant took the project to the ADR group for conceptual review. Some of the ADR members indicated that the second story bulk extended too far forward towards Redwood Drive. As a result, the applicant removed the ADU back 3 feet 9 inches. On February 15, 2023, the ADR group recommended approval. Although the ADR members recommended approval, they also had some modifications and suggestions with their approval. One of the ADR members thought that the ADU mass was still too close to Redwood Drive. Also, a few ADR members discussed the idea of a hip roof as a way of reducing the mass of the ADU. The applicant worked with one of the ADR members to make design changes based on the ADR members' comments, such as reducing the mass. The applicant moved the ADU back an additional foot and widened the ADU by 9 inches and retained the gable roof design. Staff received 3 emails in support of the project from the neighbors at 16 and 18 Redwood Drive, which are located directly across the street and have the most direct view of the project, and the neighbor at 19 Redwood Drive. Staff requests that the Town Council adopts Resolution 2299, approving ADU permit and a variance permit for the subject property as described. That concludes my presentation.
Does any member of the council have any questions for the staff?
So for this item, were you gonna, there was a little modification of the resolution. Are you gonna go into that?
Yeah, I can go ahead and address that. The resolution tonight for the variance only included findings for the floor area. We have since amended that resolution and included findings for the variance for lot coverage as well. Are on the dais for you. I passed them out, and there are some here. So it is the same resolution with additional findings for the lot coverage variance as well as the floor area. Let me know if you have questions.
Any other questions by members of council for staff? If not, we'll open a public hearing at this time. Does any member of the public wish to address us for 3 minutes or less regarding this project?
Mayor, if I may, before we open the public hearing, I want to remind the public, for our public hearings, we first have the applicant have the ability to give a presentation for up to 15 minutes, and then public comment, and then rebuttal.
The applicant has 15 minutes to present the project, and you need not use all 15 minutes. You may reserve some of them for a response after you've heard public comment.
Absolutely, Mayor Kuhl. And as staff has done a wonderful job of explaining the project, and my client Jeff or I have met everyone out at the site. We think at the interest of time that we'll save that for answering questions.
Okay. So now, is there any member of the public who wishes to address us regarding this application? Any on Zoom?
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
All right, that being the case, I'll close the public hearing, bring this matter back to the council for discussion and resolution.
I move we approve Resolution 2299 and the variance.
Second.
Oh, and the accessory dwelling unit permit.
Councilmember McMillan? Councilmember Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Mayor Kuhl?
Aye.
Councilmember Breckus?
Aye.
Thank you. With the 5, the motion passes.
All right, that brings us to item 16, 28 Walnut Avenue. Rebecca, are you presenting the
Yes,
staff
I will
on
be
this?
presenting this one. Good evening, Mayor Kuhl and council members. This project site is located off the upper portion of Lagunitas Road on Walnut Avenue. The property is a large lot, far exceeding the 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. lot is a flat lot in the X flood zone, which is a minimal risk for flooding. Tonight, the applicant is requesting approval of demolition, design review, and nonconformity permit to remodel and renovate the existing home. The project includes remodeling and renovation of the existing single-family home, removing the office and deck in the side yard setback, replacing the different roof structures with one coherent roof design, and demolition of the carport at Walnut Avenue. New landscaping and hardscape is also being proposed throughout this property. Just as a point of information, the ADU is not part of council review as it is subject to ministerial approval. The staff report for some reason indicates that there are 8 covered parking spaces. That is a mistake, sorry. There are 2 covered and 1 uncovered. This project went to ADR on January, February, and at the March ADR hearing, the project was reviewed and the design review, the ADR recommended approval of this project. The project architect has worked with the comments received at the ADR meetings, the neighbors, and the ADR members individually to arrive at a design that was recommended for approval at that ADR hearing. The plans included in your council packet are those that are consistent with the March ADR recommendation. At the time of writing the staff report, no additional public comments had been received. Since that staff report, there were comments, I have received some comments. An email from Tilda Thompson was received in support of the project, and an email from Chris Soleil supportive of a shift in the ADU location. An email was received by Mr. Baskin representing the property owner of 15 Walnut and 10 Olive, who has asked for a continuance to address his client's concern. The applicant has indicated, as well as staff agrees, that there has been ample time over the past 3 months to discuss this project, and this is the first time that he has asked for a meeting. 28 Walnut is uphill from Mr. Raskin's client's homes and sits more than 50 feet from the front property line. The ADR has reviewed Mr. Raskin's 3 previous letters and has determined the project is in conformance with the design review findings, specifically mass and bulk finding. Staff as well concurs with the ADR findings. Additionally, an email was received from Loretta Gargan and Catherine Wagner with concerns about massing and screening. Again, the ADR reviewed the massing and screening and is recommending approval of this project. Tonight, staff recommends the Town Council adopt Resolution 2300 approving demolition, design review, and nonconformity permit for 28 Walnut Avenue.
Thank you, Rebecca. Does
Thank
any
you.
member of the council have questions for staff? Yes.
Rebecca, I'm confused about the bridge linking the ADU to the house. What is your recommendation in terms of it being open or enclosed? I guess those are the issues.
In terms of the bridge being there or not being there? I think that, yeah, it was 2 ADR members were in support of it and 2 ADR members were not in support of it. I think it was really challenging as well it is for me and maybe you guys to look at this project and not look at the ADU in terms of massing. I think if you put your hand in front of the ADU, I think the project fits into the context of the neighborhood and the mass and bulk fits in as well to the context of the neighborhood with the bridge.
Are there any other questions by members of the council for staff? If not, we'll open the public hearing.
Applicant.
Oh, I did it again. Good thing all you people are here. The applicant, as you know, has 15 minutes. You can reserve.
I
some
won't
of the
take that
time
long.
if you
It's been a
want.
long meeting for you guys. So thank you very much for this meeting. Greetings to the council and the mayor. Thank you for visiting the site with me in the last few days. And before discussing the actual project before you, here are some business items that we should do for your information. We previously agreed to work with both adjacent neighbors, both for the type, height, and location of permanent privacy fencing, as well as to coordinate our new and edited landscaping with their input. Also, this property is part of the Ivy Drive Road Association because it's a through lot between Ivy and Walnut. We are aware of the restrictions on Ivy Drive use. We agree that all construction action will take place coming from Walnut Avenue end of the property. Our long driveway and lower off-street parking space will facilitate that, as there is no legal off-street street parking on Upper Walnut Avenue. After the first ADR meeting, in response to comments about the ADU, for the second ADR meeting, we modified the west wing roof structure to reduce the wall height closest to that property line, move part of that building further away, as well as to reduce the adjacent roof volume to demonstrate that we listened to the ADR comments, even though the ADU was no longer subject to ADR review. When the ADU project is reviewed ministerially for its planning permit, it will show our most recent change. At the request of our west neighbors, the Soles, we are moving the entire west wing, so the closest our building wall will be to the property line will be 8 feet. Chris and Marnie have emailed Rebecca to confirm that we've reached this compromise. A positive benefit of this wider side yard is now we have space beyond the 5-foot fire department don't plant anything zone to add some landscape. Tilda Thompson and Bob Archer are our east neighbors. They are in support of this project, and Tilda has both written and spoken to that effect at an ADR meeting. Because we have been to 3 ADR meetings, there's a great deal of information about this project in your packet, including a history of the review process to date. I can say briefly that at the first ADR meeting, that comments were mostly about the ADR with little feedback about the rest of the project. The second ADR brought constructive criticism about the project under review for you tonight, which, when incorporated, produced recommendation for approval to you at that third meeting. We believe we have a better project now than when we started. The one project area without ADR approval that you just referred to, Julie, was there was consensus for the total approval, but the without consensus was a connecting bridge between what we call the west and east wings, beneath which you can access an upward path to the family outdoor entertaining space at the rear. Because of the ADU shifting away from the Soles, that element became smaller. It's now about 135 square feet. That there was a split between the ADR members as to the importance of this element relative to bulk and mass, I think is indicative that this is a matter of opinion. It's a chocolate or vanilla decision that does not have basis in the design review guidelines. In a broad overview of Ross Design Review guidelines is to have buildings that fit in the community. Our neighborhood is the upper part of Walnut. That's where the minor street relationship moderate slope map ends, right in the middle of Walnut. So our neighborhood are the 4 houses on our side of the street. Number 30, the Soles on the west, is larger than 4,000 square feet. Our project, including the ADU that we won't discuss, is 3,600 square feet. The Thompson Archer residence on the right is 2,400 square feet, and the Livermore's at 24 is larger than 6,000 square feet. 28 Walnut is consistent with neighborhood style, scale, lot location, color, materials, and we believe it will be a good fit to the neighborhood and an asset to the town. I'd like to reserve any time I have after this in case there are comments from the public. If you have questions.
You have about 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Does any member of the council have questions for the applicant? Okay, I think we're actually at where we can open public hearing. Is there any member, there is a member of the public who wishes to speak to us?
Honorable Mayor and council members, my name's Catherine Bossert. I live right across the street. And unlike Tilda, who's to the east, and Chris and Marnie are to the west, I'm right to the south of this huge slope that Phoebe just mentioned. And I met with Phoebe and the owners, and I gave a whole list of comments related to drainage, hillside stability, and the fact that the lower, what they call carport, is actually an old carriage house that has never been used for cars before. So if you approve a parking spot there, it's a new use, which is right into our living room window, our kitchen window, right across the street. So none of my comments were put into the plans. I was completely ignored. We reached out to the owners and the architect twice to try and meet. They won't even return our emails or our phone calls. We feel completely ignored. We feel they're taking out the whole driveway, the structure supporting the hill. There's no environmental review showing that there's going to be stability, that it's not going to just slide right into our house. We're concerned that this has not had the proper engineering or any review. And I think we were ignored because we're tenants and not property owners. And it's really not a good feeling to be. They were there the other day, they walked right by and snubbed their nose at me. I was outside emptying my rain gauge because that's what we do this year. Anyway, so I just wanted you to know that those of us at the south who are downhill are in a completely different position than the neighbors on the sides because of the slope and because of the rain. And like, for example, the driveway is paved, they want to make it impermeable. And I know we all understand the benefits, but you can actually see where the rain has carved out a groove in the driveway, and they want to shift it so it goes past the storm drain. So the water is going to come down in a completely different way. And I just would be horrified to see you approve this project without more study. Because once it's approved, we've already been steamrolled before it's been approved by these people not caring about our comments at all. So I just thought you guys should know that before you vote and approve this project.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public in the room who would like us to address us with regard to this project? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Tilda Thompson, and I live next door. And I am supporting the project. I have observed I've sat in on all the design review meetings, and I don't necessarily agree with the architects that it's massive. I think it has to do with the fact that it's located uphill, but it's basically going to be the same house that's there now. And with the addition of the ADU, granted, that does add size. I think the bridge is actually very interesting. I think it's creative, and you walk under it and into the backyard, and I think it's a plus, not necessarily a negative. There was something else. What was it? I don't remember. Oh, I know. The issue of privacy that's been mentioned by some of the neighbors. I think the plan is very extensive as far as landscaping, and I'm sure that that will be implemented. I'm sure that they want as much privacy as everyone else in the neighborhood wants privacy, and you can do a lot with planting around that. And I think generally they have reached out to all the neighbors. I'm actually very surprised to hear Catherine's comments. I felt that they made overtures early on to meet with all of us and show us their plans. So anyway, I support it, and I think they would be very nice additions to the neighborhood. And I'm also so thrilled that they didn't tear it down, which seems to be what happens in Ross whenever a property sells. So the fact that they're willing to work with an existing house and modify it, I think is great. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I also live across the street at 10 Olive, which would also be considered 29 Walnut in the past by Google. My main concern is that the carport, they call a carport, was a shop. It was Zeiss's shop back in the day. I know I have some of the equipment from his shop because it was given to me. And so it was never used as a garage or a carport. It was always a workshop. And the thing that really bothers me is the two storm drains at the bottom of the driveway. All the water comes down when there's heavy rain, as we've had for the last few weeks, down that way to those two storm drains, which have been there for like 100 years. It's been that way. And they're talking about removing the structure. That's going to change the way the water flows in. And who knows if there's going to be a mudslide. I haven't seen like a soil analysis or any of the stuff that would normally go with this kind of a project. And my kitchen is right below that. So if the mudslide and the water starts coming into my house, we're going to be pretty unamused with that. And we would ask that the town council not approve this plan the way that it has been proposed. So that's all I have to say. Okay. My name is Carlos Hilson, in case you're wondering.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to address us on this subject? Are there any on Zoom?
Yes, one moment. Mr. Raskin?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. My name is Ellis Raskin, and I represent Kate Lord, who's the owner of the property immediately across the street on Walnut. I'd like to begin just by saying preliminarily that this matter came before the ADR group 3 times in January, February, and March, and each time the design was substantively identical, with the exception of a few minor inconsequential changes. And we had assumed after the March meeting that the project applicants would further revise the project, given that there was not support from a majority of ADR members. At that meeting, there was a 2-2 split where 2 members had said that they would not support the project with the inclusion of the bridge. And a third member, Member Fritz, who was not there at that meeting, had previously said that at the February meeting that, quote, the mass of the project is too large, quote unquote. And, quote, he agreed with the comments about the bridge, that it adds bulk and mass, unquote. Given that there were 3 members who were not in support of this project as designed, we were very surprised to see that it was moving forward tonight. And 3 business days after the agenda was posted, we reached out to the project applicant and asked for a meeting. We were summarily denied the opportunity to have any further communications or an opportunity for compromise. That being said, we've submitted some pretty extensive letters to you that highlight the reasons why this project is not consistent with applicable development standards. And there are a few other key reasons I want to touch on very briefly as to why the project should be denied, or at the very least continued tonight. And first and foremost, the big issue that jumps out to us is that the city is relying on an incorrect CEQA exemption. Specifically, the town is citing subdivision E of the class 3 exemption, which, quote, only applies to, forgive me, quote, accessory appurtenant structures, including garages, carports, patios, swimming pools, and fences, unquote. I understand that the ADU is being considered under a separate application, so therefore, by its very terms, this CEQA exemption is inapplicable, and this matter should be continued so that the city can cite the correct CEQA exemption here if it does want to use one, though we've submitted some pretty extensive documentation that shows that, in fact, a mitigated negative declaration is probably required here, given the likelihood of substantial environmental impacts. There are other impacts we've shown in our letter.
20 seconds.
I'll just wrap up by saying that if you look at the pictures we've submitted, this is a project that's clearly out of scale and scope with the character of the neighborhood. And this is going to create a domino effect with the rest of the town, where as soon as this project's approved, more like it will pop up. And we urge you to, at the very least, continue this item tonight.
Thank you. At this time, does the applicant wish to present any?
I have another.
I'm sorry, hold on.
Mr. Archer?
Thank you. Robert Archer. I live at 26 Walnut Avenue, next door to the project, and I support the plan. I attended all three of the design review meetings, and I think the applicant has really been responsive to the design considerations and other changes that had merit and responsive to concerns that had merit. We met with the applicant, and one issue we wanted to discuss with them was the landscaping issue. And we have had a very good discussion with them and are agreeing to work together on their side of the fence and our side of the fence to achieve privacy or any other issues that come up. And I'm very confident that that will work out. And I hope you will prove this so that we can get ahead with our new neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further people on Zoom?
There are no more raised hands. Thank you.
Okay. The applicant has 11 minutes.
I don't need that much.
Mayor, if I may, our rules actually only allow 5 minutes for rebuttal, period. There's no, you don't reserve any of the time from the beginning.
Oh, you can. Okay, you got
I still
5.
am okay. So first of all, I'm very concerned at Catherine's concern about the water moving through the site. It's one of the reasons that we wanted to keep the bridge open underneath so that the water path that it follows now would continue in the same way. We are in no means removing any of the storm drains, moving them in any way whatsoever. It's only the west wing itself that was moving. And at the time when this was first verbalized, I spoke to Rebecca, and she said that that kind of site engineering would be part of the building permit application and not appropriate for this, the planning application. I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, you got the letter that Mr. Raskin sent me. I sent a copy to council of my response. I don't feel that we were being intractable. I feel like we were being asked way late in the game to talk about something that there was much opportunity for that was not taken advantage of previously. And we respectfully disagree with his interpretation of the governing laws, though I expect your city attorney has some things to say on that. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing at this point, bring it back to council for decision and for discussion and decision. Does any member of the council have any further comments?
I just had a comment about, in looking at the conditions of approval, condition 9F does require that a drainage design plan be submitted and comply with the town's stormwater ordinance. So while it's premature to have that now at this hearing, it will be something that the staff reviews prior to issuing the building permit.
Anyone else have any comments on this item?
Yes, I do. I just was going to say that I like the bridgeway to the ADU is, I'm seeing that more and more on projects, and I think it's really a nice element. And I even like, the glass look, because I think it's like windows that are just add beauty to a building. So I think it makes it a more functional whole residence and development. And I think it's more attractive. And I know it's a change with the ADU, and I was pleased to hear that you worked with the neighbor to do what you can to accommodate that roof modification. But I think the project overall is consistent with what we approve. And if you look at it's an oversized lot, and they're going below the FAR. So with that, it's not really possible for me to say that the scale and mass is unreasonable. And with respect to drainage and, engineering, that is the kind of thing that we do not really focus on in the planning stage, and we let that be an element of building, and it's a strict requirement. And just like, you can build off the cliff on Belvedere and make it safe, this property can be developed and be safe, in my opinion. So I don't have a concern with that.
Julie?
I just wanted to add one other thing, that the house itself, the front yard setback is 25 feet, and the house itself is 80 feet from the front property line. So, you know, if the applicant had pushed the house very close to the street, I could see how people would be upset about additional massing. But it seems to me like the applicant has done a really good job in terms of keeping the footprint of the original house and keeping this huge front setback. So I'm prepared to make a motion to approve resolution number 2300.
Second.
Councilmember McMillan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kircher,
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins,
Aye.
Mayor Cool,
Aye.
Councilmember Breckus.
Aye.
All right, with a vote of 5, the motion passes.
That completes our public hearings on planning projects. We have item number 17, no action items. First of all, is there any council correspondence which any member of the council wants to report to us? Okay, and second, does anyone have any requests for future council items?
Well, I wouldn't, that rule that we only allow a 5-minute rebuttal, I think we might want to consider revising that, because then you encourage people to speak for 10 and reserve for 5. And in other jurisdictions, I often see people do it a little differently.
So you're requesting?
That, and also whether we really have to take a call vote of, you know, a person who makes a motion. I mean, they just made the motion, so let's pull the other people. So I don't know, maybe we could look at the protocols, if that's, is that where it is protocols?
The public hearing requirements are in your protocols. And are you talking about whether or not the clerk calls for each roll call vote? I don't know where that is. It might be in the protocols, but we could bring both things back.
But you're talking about the town's protocol manual?
Correct.
So we should take a look at that.
I wouldn't mind finessing that.
Julie?
I also had a question about the 2 Pomeroy project. It seemed kind of silly that we had to go have them have a hearing just to do different siding and windows. Is there any way to streamline that and just let the staff approve that?
Yes, we would have to amend our demolition section. There is a way to let staff approve a certain percentage of demolition. Because this was 100%, it was not under that section of the code, so it had to come to town council. So I can certainly bring that
And what about
back.
the windows?
The windows.
The windows
The
were in the
windows.
original application, were they?
I think that was a typo in the notice. I think it should have just been for the siding.
So back to Councilmember Breckis's question, so we can stick with that one agenda item. Do we have a second for wanting to review the rules? Okay, and I just looked in the rules and I don't see the issue about the clerk polling everyone. So we can add that in the rules when we look at the rules if we don't want to do that. You certainly aren't required to do it. It might just be a tradition of Ross, I'm not sure.
It's something we didn't used to do, but then when we got to COVID.
If it's
we
just from
decided to do
COVID,
it.
if it's just from COVID, we don't have to do that anymore. That was because of Zoom. You had to do that on a remote meeting under the legislation. that allowed
Isn't that
it.
right? Didn't we used to just take a voice vote?
No, I feel like, but it was before COVID, all of a sudden someone liked it and they said, we have to do this. It might have been Joe. And it was, and then we started doing it and it's like,
There's certain instances when you have to do it, like an ordinance, you have to do a roll call vote. But it's very rare you actually have to do a roll call vote by law. We have the request to bring the protocols back on an agenda. Are there any other requests? The zoning ordinance, is that a request to bring that We have one person,
I'll
council member.
support that.
And timing is, when we have time, no rush.
No rush on either.
Okay, anything else? We're adjourned.
Well played, Beach.
I don't know how that happened.
I know. Did something drop off?
I'm sorry. She came and fixed it and I forgot.
That's why it shouldn't be on the mayor to do. Thing always drove me crazy. You can't, I never press the right thing. And then it keeps beeping for the next one. I mean,
Well, I end up like this one.